Alright everybody, it is time to get serious because here we have my top 10 games of the generation. This is the entirety of Generation 7, console games only, no handhelds, no PC, no compilations, no HD remakes. You know the story, my opinion. Here we go, let's jump right in. I only have to do 10 this video so I don't feel as time restricted. So here we go. Coming in at number 10 is Fez, my game of the year from 2012, and it definitely deserved the title because I think let me just go ahead and spoil the rest of the list for you. This is the highest indie game on the list, and there was just something about that game that struck. It was very personal to me. It was so. It was after you go away from the first hub world, it's just so lonely. It's full of this melancholy. And it's just you exploring this world slowly. The puzzle mechanic is relatively simple. I've explained it before, but it's like you only see one side of a cube at a time, and you can if the entire world was a cube, you can only move across it this way, and then you can spin it 90 degrees, and then traverse across that plane. And I don't think I explained it very well just then, but it's a pretty interesting puzzle mechanic. It's maybe a little one note. You can solve most of the puzzles by spinning once, but then there are these really subtle, almost impossible to find and figure out hidden puzzles that, I had to bust out a pen and paper to solve some of these, and I don't know why that struck me as so interesting. There's some of you you actually had to pull out a pen and paper to figure out the puzzle in this game. Forget that, I'm not playing this. But it struck me as very unique, especially after just sort of I played right after I played Mass Effect 3. You know the story. It was that action-heavy, emotionally complex romp, and then I just play this simple little game that's very serene and peaceful with beautiful graphics and a great soundtrack, and it just touched me, and it filled me with this warmth, and I absolutely loved it. It's a shame that Phil Fish, who's a bit of a dick apparently, is quitting game making now because it's too stressful or whatever, and he feels that it's thankless. And I understand, I guess, where he's coming from. I wish he would come back. I wish he would make Fez 2, but it's probably not going to happen. So Fez was something that's probably never going to happen again, and I absolutely loved it. And don't come at me. I know no one likes the game as much as I do. Well, that's not true, but very few people, at least in my audience, probably don't like the game as much as I do. Okay, coming in at number 9, Super Mario Galaxy. This is spoiling the list again, the highest Wii game on the list. I think Super Mario Galaxy was the first Wii game that made me really glad I'd gotten the Wii. It was the first. I loved Twilight Princess, absolutely loved it, and that also made me glad that I'd gotten the Wii. But I think Super Mario Galaxy took the 3D Mario platforming formula and basically just said the sky's the limit, literally. But I loved the gravity mechanic. I loved playing through all these beautiful, varied worlds. And it just I felt I hadn't had a 3D Mario platforming experience that hit me in such a way since Super Mario 64, because Sunshine didn't do it for me. I know a lot of people really like that game, especially in the LPing community, but it just didn't strike me like Super Mario 64 struck me, and I think this game has gotten the closest to the magic that Super Mario 64 managed to hit upon back then. I think it is just revelatory. It's great platforming, out and out, solid stuff, and it had a sequel that was also really great. And if I'd combined both of those games, it probably would have made it even higher on this list, because it just goes to show that for platforming, Mario is king, eternal. Absolutely loved Super Mario Galaxy, despite the fact that I never finished that LP. It's still in the back of my brain in a very small place. Maybe I'll get around to doing more of that soon. Coming in at number 8 is Grand Theft Auto 4. This was the game that really struck me as Rockstar's crowning achievement up until that point. And spoiling the list again, their crowning achievement ever. Because I think, or at least of this generation, Grand Theft Auto 4 took like the cartoony, crazy fun of the Grand Theft Auto games previously, and didn't sacrifice that, but also worked in seamlessly a really serious story about chasing the American dream and escaping your past and what that entails. I loved Nico Bellic. I felt like he was a really, really great protagonist. I loved his story. I loved the characters. The game is hilarious. It parodies American culture. It parodies every single aspect of our society, and I enjoy it in a way that I think mostly only Americans can enjoy. I don't think that necessarily means people from other countries can't enjoy the Grand Theft Auto games, but there's something about them as a parody of America that make them feel very personal to me. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, one of the main reasons I love playing this game was just talking about it with friends. A lot of times we would just go over to a friend's house, we'd put in Grand Theft Auto 4, and we'd just pass the controller around. Like we would, we would dick around, do something crazy, end up getting blown up, and then we'd pass the controller to the next person, and we'd just have crazy amounts of fun just watching each other explore the zany world of Liberty City. I love Grand Theft Auto 4. It's going to stick with me for a long, long time. Coming in at number 7 is The Last of Us. Maybe, you love the one. They always say that you love the one that you're with. So maybe as I get further and further away from this year, this game will fall down on the list. But The Last of Us right now for me is one of the absolute emotional pinnacles of the entire generation, and maybe gaming in toto. Like, I think The Last of Us manages to tell us a story that's so human, and obviously the incredibly high production values are a part of what makes it able to communicate in such a human way, but it comes down to the writing and the voice acting. The writing is spectacular. The voice acting is the best I've ever heard, and I think that really just all of that culminates to create an incredible story that really affected me and affected a lot of people. The first 10 minutes of this game are some of the most emotionally raw and riveting opening 10 minutes to a game ever. I absolutely, it just shocked me to my core, and I was in then, and I was in with the story. I was in with Joel. Ellie gets introduced a little bit later. Love the characters. Gameplay is excellent as well. The Last of Us, I'm going to go ahead and stop singing its praises now because you're probably tired of hearing about it. As is the case with number 6, Bioshock Infinite, which, again, as I go along, maybe it'll fall down a little bit in the overall rankings. But right now, that gaming world is going to be someplace that I will never, ever forget. It just opened my eyes to amazing art and level design and atmosphere creation, that it maintains at such a high level of proficiency that it almost baffles me that other game designers haven't been able to make a game world so fully realized and feel so real despite being so amazingly fantastic. And love the gameplay in that game. I know a lot of people don't, but I do. I liked the using the tears, and I loved using the vigors, and I loved using the skylines. Just a great, fun, smile-inducing experience that has another very beautiful opening and a very, very beautiful ending. The last 30 minutes are just up there in terms of overall endings for games. Maybe my favorite ending for a game, maybe ever, which is a high platitude, serious hyperbole going on right now, but it's kind of how I feel. I think that ending is just something that I'm never, ever going to forget. And Bioshock Infinite is just an excellent, excellent game. Top 5 material here. Here we go. Coming in at number 5, Fallout 3. Bethesda, man. You guys just know how it's done. They took a beloved franchise from Fallout and Fallout 2, 2 games I've never played, but which I've seen being played, and they turned it into a first-person RPG using futuristic guns in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. And for a game world that's so at face value bereft of life, there is so much depth and so much life in this game. I loved the 50s aesthetic of the music, and even some of the architecture and the ways people talk. The sort of values that people from the 1950s held dear. The gameplay was incredibly fun. I loved the VATS, the vault assisted targeting system. Basically pausing the game and, you know, choosing exactly what part of your target you wanted to hit. And it just literally never ever once got old, despite the fact that, I mean, you're killing the same, pretty much like the same groupings of enemies, just almost ad nauseum. And I don't know, I think Bethesda just does it right with their games. And there's some serious similarities across all of their titles of this last generation. But I think Fallout 3 was probably the most unique, despite the fact that it was a continuation of a franchise. And I think that the story is really good as well. And, man, that game world, so great, so absorbent. Bethesda great at making absorbent game worlds. Is that even a word? Absorbent? It absorbs you. Anyway, coming in at number 4, another Bethesda game, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Their crowning achievement of this generation, and in my opinion, ever. I think that Skyrim, once again, going to sound like a broken record here, game world, game world, game world. I said that for the past 2 games, and it's the same here. I think in a world, I think when a developer manages to make a world that absolutely you can dissolve into and forget that you're sitting in a chair with a controller in your hand, and like all of a sudden you'll come out of this trance and it'll be, you know, 6 hours later and you didn't realize it. I think that is a particular kind of game making magic that Bethesda, better than any other developer this generation, really managed to target in on. I think Skyrim is an amazing game from top to bottom. It's obviously like kind of buggy, and that's like the big problem with Bethesda games, is they get really, really buggy really fast. I think the worst offender for me was Fallout New Vegas, which is a great game, but I mean, that game crashed probably like 15 times for me. And that's just something that you're going to get. But Skyrim, in addition to flying in the face of what I thought was probable, it also flew in the face of what I thought was possible, and just of like how much stuff they fit on one stinking little DVD-ROM, and it's just incredible depth there. So many things to do. I mean, my first playthrough of that game was like 120 hours, and I did like a lot of the side quests, but I missed a ton as well. Not to mention there are like these sort of miscellaneous events that you can just do for eternity if you so feel. And I don't know, Skyrim, man, it's just, what a great game. What an absolutely incredible title. Top 3 here. Number 3, Uncharted 2, Among Thieves. I love the Uncharted games. They're probably my favorite series of the generation. If I was doing series, I don't know if it would go up higher. 3 is very, very high, and it's got some serious competition with number 1 and number 2. But Uncharted 2 was undoubtedly the pinnacle of the series, because the first Uncharted had quite a bit of problems. Uncharted 2 fixed all those problems and managed to elevate itself to like seriously like best ever kind of heights. And then Uncharted 3 was also very good, but sort of lived in the shadow of number 2. And Uncharted 2, I think, for every aspect, graphics, storyline, gameplay, all pulled off with a level of polish that I just haven't seen just about any other game. I felt like the level of attention to detail and how almost every single situation was hardwired to make it as fun as possible, plus the set piece moments like the segments in the train and on the convoy and in the building while it collapses. I mean, I could just go on and on and on. I love the set piece moments. It just was a very, very epic game. And coming from somebody who likes Indiana Jones better than Star Wars, that's me here. I'm one of the weird ones like that. I just loved, it was like Indiana Jones for the 20th century, for the 21st century, actually. And, man, Uncharted 2, what a great game. Holy crap. Okay, The last two were very hard to choose between. Number 2 was Bioshock. It was the game that made me get an Xbox 360. It was pretty much the first game I played on my own owned Xbox 360. I saw it played at a friend's house, and I was in love immediately. The claustrophobic, dark game world, just how every single nook and cranny of that game has something to find. The combat, which the game provides you with so many tools at your disposal to approach each different combat encounter in a vastly different way. I mean, the fact that you have like 7 weapons, 6 of which have 3 different kinds of ammo. The 7th's a wrench, by the way. Have 3 different kinds of ammo, plus all of your plasmids, which you can use in tandem. Plus, you can lay traps. It just like each simple encounter it flowed together so well, and it provided you you felt like a kid in a candy store with all of the stuff available in here. And I love the deeply realized world of Rapture. It was so dark. It felt so real, despite the fact that it was so surreal. I loved using that the story was told through audio diaries. It was really kind of the first time I'd played a game where the story was told predominantly through audio diaries and radio messages. You barely ever saw another human, and I think that feeling of isolation was also very important to what made that game so special. I go back and I play Bioshock maybe once every couple of years, maybe once every year even. I just think it is an absolutely special game that if you haven't played Bioshock and you have the means to do so, you are seriously depriving yourself of one of the pinnacles of gaming history ever. Okay, which leads me to my number 1 game. I think Bioshock is a great game, but it's not perfect. That last segment when you're doing like a escort mission with the little sister, kind of tedious and not entirely fun. But I feel like my number 1, for what it does, is a perfect game. And that is Portal. Portal is front to back, just sheer gaming nirvana. I mean, it's only like 3 hours long. And I think its length helps contribute to its quality because it doesn't get a chance to overstay its welcome. And just the absolute awe you get when learning how portals work for the first time and using that to solve the puzzles in the game. I mean, I probably have all the puzzles in this game like memorized by now since I've played it so many times. But just that first time going through it, you know, just the act of learning the world is just so unique and so special. I wouldn't sacrifice it for anything in the world. Plus, you have the introduction of probably the best character in console generation 7, GLaDOS. Sarcastic, fun, deeply and darkly humorous, just always there like a voice in the back of your head, saying what's probably on your mind some of the time, and shocking you with something that would never cross your mind at others. She is just one of the most brilliantly written characters that I've ever encountered in gaming or otherwise. I love GLaDOS. And I think that Valve, I mean, if you get an Xbox 360, I think the first game you should buy is the orange box. And because I was tempted to put the orange box at number 1, but I decided no compilations, because that game has Half-Life 2. It has both the Half-Life 2 episodes. It has Team Fortress 2, and it has Portal. And I really think Portal is just a gem. Just an absolute gem of a game that it deeply affected me as a player and informed how I think about games in general. And it changed me as a person. And to be able to say that about a game is incredibly profound. And I think it's a good argument for anybody who would maybe say that games aren't art. So there you go. My number 1 game of the generation was Portal. It's one of my favorite games of all time. And man, what a good console generation. I feel like this was the first console generation I really felt like I got to own. Because last console generation, I really didn't get an original Xbox until really, really late, until it was practically irrelevant to own one anymore. and I felt like I missed out on a few games because of that. But I feel like this game, this generation really turned it on in terms of the number and sheer density of quality titles that came out over the course of the years. And I'm going to remember it fondly. Generation 7. I guess it's not quite over yet. There's still games coming out for it. But I think, for all intents and purposes, we as gamers have moved on. Either to Generation 8 consoles, or for a lot of us, we're like, let's just play on PC now. And I think I'm somewhere in the middle. Like, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm glad I got an Xbox One, but now that I have a computer that can actually, play games, I may be doing most of my gaming on my PC from here on out. Who knows? But it's a very interesting time to be a gamer, and I think it's a great time for nostalgia to look back fondly on a gaming generation that was just a knockout generation. Some great titles. I'm sure I missed a bunch, probably that you loved. And I'm sorry that I did. But there you go. My top 25 games of the generation. I hope you enjoyed it. Coming at you in a couple days with more Let's Play Rayman Legends. Finally getting back to that. Hope I remember how to do a Let's Play. I've been doing list videos for so long. Thank you for watching. Thanks for watching what all together probably amounted to maybe over 2 hours of me just talking about games. Maybe just right at 2 hours probably. And I'm rambling now. This video is already over 20 minutes. So I just need to shut my yap. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for sticking around. And I will see you in a couple days for more Rayman. I love you guys. I love video games. And so do you. Take it easy.